How is everyone doing today? I hope you're having a great day. You're listening to 7 Jars of Hot Pickled Peppers, a podcast about discovering your strength, resilience, acceptance, perhaps even finding your new path after a stroke or life-altering event. I'm Christine, your host and a stroke survivor. It took me a while to accept the new me after my stroke, and my goal is to help others on their journey, along with the whole 7 Jars team. Why the name? The new me absolutely loves hot pickled peppers. Well, let's get to it.
Welcome to the podcast of 7 Jars of Hot Pickled Peppers, Season 2, Episode 8, Sing Able. The information and advice provided by 7 Jars of Hot Pickled Peppers, Ken and Christine Jackson, the speakers and commentators on their podcasts, interviews and references in the book, are not a substitute for the advice and treatment plan provided by your own healthcare professional. Further, it's not intended to be an adjunct to any existing or proposed advice or treatment plan you may currently be receiving from your healthcare professional. One of the most important things that we've come to realize is that each individual and their family's journey through a stroke or a major life event is that its recovery is truly unique. The story and information provided by ourselves and our guests is solely intended to let you and your family know that 1, you're not alone. Other people and families have gone through or are going through similar experiences. 2, there are resources available that you may not be aware of that may help you and your family through the stroke recovery process. And 3, there may be other treatment options available. Again, please consult your healthcare professional regarding any treatment plan and do not follow the treatment plans that are discussed in the information we have provided, as it is solely intended and directed for Christine and her continuing care. Thank you. You can join the conversation on YouTube and Facebook at 7 Jars of Hot Pickled Peppers for our video version of the podcast. You can check out our website at 7jarsofhotpickledpeppers.com, or you can download our podcasts on iTunes or Podbean. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter at 7 Jars. Now it's time for Quote of the Cast. After silence, that which comes closest to expressing the inexpressible is music. Aldous Huxley.
Music, singing. It's such a big part of life. When my children were little, I would often sing them bedtime songs. As a family, we sing Christmas carols, and for fun, sometimes we have karaoke nights. After my stroke, singing was more challenging for me. I used to sing a song in our band and did lots of backups. I don't sing my song anymore, and my backups are hit and miss. I read that often people with left side strokes who have difficulty speaking can often sing. Maybe since my stroke was on the right side, I can talk, but find it tricky to sing. For me, I think it is the concentration of doing more than one thing at a time, as I'm also playing my bass. But what are the benefits of singing? Can singing be a kind of therapy?
On today's episode, we have 2 guests, both doctors and professors of music at the University of Alberta, Augustana campus. We'd like to welcome Dr. Roger Admiral and Dr. Ardelle Reis. Today's podcast is on location at the University of Alberta, Augustana campus in Camrose, and the music that we're currently hearing is from the Sing Able Choir.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Ardelle and Roger. who, as you heard in the introductions, are extremely talented and experienced musicians, teachers, professors, and so much more. So, first, if you could tell us a little bit about yourselves. Ardelle?
Well, I was born on the Alberta prairies, just
Nice.
an hour and a half from Camrose, on a farm, just an hour and a half away from here. The town is called Castor, that the farm is
Okay.
close to. And I was born into a family where my mother played in a dance band, and so we just had music in the house all the time.
Nice.
And we did not have a music teacher in our school system. We had a convent where a little old nun would teach piano lessons to the local children, and so I took piano lessons for years and sang as well. Singing is my first love, and when I was a wee child, I would go out with my dad, and he would put me in the feeder of the feedlot where the cattle were, and I would sing
Oh, my
for
goodness.
him, sing for the cows, I should say. And so from there, I just kept on with music, and went to university in Edmonton and did a Bachelor of Music in piano performance. And while I was in the middle of that, I realized that my first love was singing, and so I finished my piano degree and decided that I would just focus on choral singing. And then I thought, well, I need to have a little stability in my life, so
Right.
I did an education degree and realized that I loved conducting children initially, and then as I kept on through my career, I realized that I was just working with older and older children that would perhaps mirror the ages of my own children.
Oh, okay.
So then I started conducting adults, and I lived in Europe for 4 years and studied music and taught music there as well in Hungary.
Really?
And this was where I came in across the Kodai approach to music education.
Oh, okay.
Came back and did a graduate degree in Edmonton. That's where I met Roger.
Huh.
And then after I finished my doctorate in choral conducting, then I found myself in Camrose.
And now
So-
you're a professor at the university here.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Awesome.
Since 2004.
Fascinating life. Thank you. So now, Roger, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I was born in Ontario, and my parents were Dutch immigrants, and I have a fraternal twin, and my mother wondered if there was any musical talent in the family, because a lot of her siblings and aunts and uncles played music, but there was no money for formal lessons, so whatever abilities that were there were enjoyed, but no one ever went on to become professionals. So she was curious about that, and so just asked if we were interested, and our friends were doing it, so it just
Right.
started it like that. But I took to it quite easily, I think, and always enjoyed it right from the beginning. And since I was probably 12, I just knew that this is what I wanted to do. I didn't know what that
Right.
would mean,
Right.
but I knew right away. Then I had a good teacher, and I went to university in London, Ontario, and then decided, well, I wanted to just keep studying,
Right.
and I applied to come to Edmonton.
Oh.
I had no grand plan at all, and I knew next to nothing about Edmonton. Someone just said, "Oh, there's a university there," and then
No.
that was all. That was the reason I applied. And then I was accepted and realized, oh my goodness, it's as far north as James Bay, which when you live in southern Ontario, which is south of the American border, you realize how far north. But anyway, the weather was fine, and I enjoy the colds, no problem. But
Oh, good for
but
you.
that was great to come to Edmonton and Alberta, and it was a different. Obviously, it's still Canada, but it's a different place, different region, and so I enjoyed that. And I've always enjoyed music and in making music with other people. I've always enjoyed that, because practicing is a very solitary thing. So I've always enjoyed that, and but also just creating something on my own as a soloist,
Right.
and so I still today get a lot of joy out of music making, for other people or just playing for myself.
Right.
And so I'm thrilled that as a teacher I can work in music, as a performer I can and work in music. So
Right.
I feel lucky. So.
And piano is your main
I'm a
instrument.
pianist, yes.
Right.
I'm a pianist, and so that is also a useful instrument for working with other people.
So
Yeah,
much.
because you can hear it's not just a single line of music. You can hear all the harmonies of the music. So I play the piano and I play classical styles from many time periods, but I also like to play a lot of contemporary music and avant-garde music as well. So.
Fantastic. So you both teach here at the university, and I believe you both still perform regularly as well, don't you?
Well, for me, I'll back up a little bit.
Okay.
When I lived in Edmonton, I specialized in children's choir settings, and so we would do lots of performance with the children's choir, but also as a singer I would sing with the professional choir in Edmonton. And that was really something that fed my soul in a big way. That was kind of a aspiration for me, was I just thought would be the most heavenly job would be to sing every day in a choir and make your living with that. And at the time when I was in my 20s and 30s, that was kind of, professional choirs around the world were kind of, gaining traction, and we developed one in Edmonton. So that was where I did a lot of performing, and I did a little bit of solo performing. I did a master's in vocal performance as well as conducting. And so then when I started conducting more, then I was singing a little bit less in terms of my solo singing. When we first got here to Camrose, Roger and I did a few solo, I did a couple of solo concerts with Roger. I did some in Hungary when I lived there. Right. But now, or actually I should say since 2013, I was overcome with a severe arthritis condition and a lot of severe inflammation all throughout my body. And so I had to stop conducting. And so that would be now 5 years ago, because I then, as you know, I conducted the Augustana Choir for 10 years, and then this happened. And so suddenly that performance aspect was removed from my life. And so I went through a couple of really rough years where I wasn't able to really engage in a performance element. And so now I still don't perform an official capacity. I would, if you want to call it that, if we're making music in a senior's home or if I'm with our family, but I haven't engaged as a solo performer for a number of years. But now I'm kind of getting back into conducting with Sing Able, and that's been really, really a nice thing for me. But
well, thank you for sharing that. And it just shows everyone is on some sort of journey, and you're finding the opportunities from your challenge. So thank you for sharing that. So Roger, are you still performing at all?
I still do some performing. I do some locally. I play piano with Sing Able and sometimes sing with them. And I also play for students at the university, voice students in particular.
Yes.
And then I'll also I'll play solo concerts in a professional setting, or I'll play with an ensemble that's conducted, maybe mixed instruments, strings and winds and percussion. So put together, I do a variety of performances throughout the year.
For sure, and I've had the pleasure of being able to hear you many times. It's been wonderful. So you've both mentioned Sing Able. So tell us about your program, Sing Able. Not singable, but
That's
Sing
right.
Able.
Let's get that right. Sing
Exactly.
Able. Well, it's got a very interesting sort of history that just kind of evolved in a very, I would actually have to say, kind of miraculous sort of way.
Oh, okay.
With this illness that I had, it was a real mind bender, as you know.
Yeah.
And suddenly the things that you assume that you can do, you can't. And so I really began to think a lot about what it's like to live with a disability.
Right.
And so that was kind of, I guess, the first genesis of Sing Able, is just that kind of awareness and thinking about
Right.
music in relation to having a disability. And then at the same time, a very fine colleague of mine in Ontario, that I was doing some other research projects on in a whole other area. She started a choir in London, Ontario, that is for individuals with dementia.
Oh, okay.
And it was in collaboration with the Alzheimer's Society of Ontario. And I thought, oh, this is really amazing. And also I wanted my students to find out about this kind of work as well. And then I became more involved with it. And so I was out in Ontario a few times, and I was watching this choir, observing. And then also, so that was the next little step. And because I thought this might be something that could happen in Camrose.
Right.
But then also I was reimagining myself as a professional, because I was no
Right.
longer conducting the Augustana choir. I was no longer conducting our men's choir. I wasn't conducting it all. And I thought, well, who am I as a musician?
Right.
And I just thought, well, the thing that I know I can do in the 30 years that I've been conducting choirs of some sort, be they children or adults of all ages, I know that my singers always came out loving to sing, and that was the most important thing for me. It wasn't, do we have the most in tune perfect fifth? It's more, do we actually have singers who leave my choirs and will continue to sing again? And so that made more sense to me. And I thought, well, if I know that I can make people enjoy and feel good about
Yes.
singing. And I taught voice for a number of years as well, and just engaging with the voice is something that I know that I love to do. And so there was three things that I was kind of reimagining my professional world. And then it would have been in what year was it? It's 2018 right now. I think it was 2017 in May. I got a telephone call from a man who had just retired from our newspaper. His name is Dan Jensen. And he's been very involved with a support organization in Camrose called the Camrose Association for Community Living. And so he called our main office here, and he said, I would really like to know if Augustana would be interested to collaborate in having some kind of choir with the clients from this support organization for individuals with disability. So the secretary, she passed his call on to me, and it was sort of a good case of synchronicity, because I had sort of been thinking about it. I was going on sabbatical that following year, but I thought, well, this is a place that I'd like to start researching more. So we chatted, and I said, well, I need to get through one big project, and then I'm on sabbatical, and during that year, that's when I'll kind of put things in a row to see if we can make this happen.
Right. And
And so it was interesting, because he'd been thinking about it, I'd been sort of thinking about it, and then it just
Right.
kind of came together. And so it's been really kind of amazing. We'll talk about a few more things
Sure. No,
later
it
with it, but that's kind of
sounds-
how it came about.
Sounds amazing. And I'm always, as I said earlier, our challenges create opportunities, which this has done.
Yeah.
I had done a bit of reading to prepare for this, and in one article, you were quoted as saying, "Singing is my life. I'm on a mission to bring singing to the masses." Is that part of your idea of Sing Able?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's wonderful.
I don't know what you'd call it. I guess maybe a practice right now that is gaining traction around the world is the notion of intergenerational ensembles, multi-generational ensembles, and inclusion ensembles, right?
Okay.
And the whole multi-generational aspect really speaks to me, and I realize that's from my family background, and that we have a very close extended family, and we'd always spent a lot of time with grandparents and cousins and kind of distant relatives, and every time we'd get together, we'd be singing, and there would be babies, and there'd be children, and there'd be youth and middle age and elderly that would always be singing together. And in Ontario, where this dementia choir is, it's an intergenerational choir where there's two two
okay.
generations together. So there's a high school choir that goes and sings along with the dementia patients
Right.
and some other members of the community. And so when I observed that, I thought, oh, that's really cool. But then I thought that I would like to see a multi-generational choir that's not just two, because in some ways that's how we used to make music, in that families would always, the wee ones would learn the songs of their elders. And we're also
Exactly.
getting at a point in society too where everyone has their own
Yes.
their own iPod or
The
playlist.
earphones, yeah.
And so we need to think about trying to get a common body of repertoire that we share and across generations. And so that was that notion about my love to sing, and knowing how wonderful it feels to see someone walk away feeling good about singing, because we all have, we can say that we can have a dysfunctional relationship with our voice because we are very highly critical of every sound that we
Yes.
make, and we can get very nervous about how we speak or how we sing, especially. And if someone says something to us about our voice that might hint on the negative, chances are that we will never sing again. And
You're
there's a
right.
lot of research with people who actually, they can sing, but they just say, no, I really can't. I just play the radio, and so I want people to discover that they are able to sing, and
Sing able.
and it's part of our humanity to, the
Right.
way that we can communicate with our voices is huge, and the singing aspect of it is also a very miraculous and unique quality for the organisms on our planet. So
Well, as you said, it's a way to bring people together, and which is what you're doing with your program. So do you two run the program together?
It's basically Ardelle's she does all the directing, the leadership,
Okay.
the conceptualizing of what it's about, and so I'm coming in to just offer some instrumental support
Right.
through
some
the,
very good instrumental
through the
support.
piano
sure.
and the drum, and sometimes I'm doing some singing
Okay.
as well. Yeah.
Nice.
So I consider myself to be just another member of the choir, but I happen
Right.
to do just a lot of instrumental playing. But it is Ardelle's concept, and she's the
Okay.
one doing the encouraging of the singing and making people feel healthy singing, and in like I say, encouraging them as a group, having everyone involved, so everyone feels to be part of it every time we have a rehearsal. So.
Oh, it's wonderful. And with that accompaniment, with the musical accompaniment, it just helps everyone to keep it flowing along and fill in. So great. So thank you for how you share your responsibilities with that. How many participants do you think you have right now?
Well, when we first thought about this group, and as I had, done some research with these groups out in Ontario, and looked, in Edmonton, there's a similar group that involves individuals with disability. I thought maybe if we had 30 singers, and also my concept was that we would not only have the individuals with disability, but we would also have this side of it that is inclusion or integration, where we'd involve members of the community. And so basically it's a choir that's open to anybody and everybody, no matter what age or stage of life, no matter what ability or disability. So over the summer we started to advertise the choir in the newspaper, and there seemed to be quite a lot of interest in the community, and good support with publicity with the media here. And so we had, in the summer, I think in August, we had 3 people called to say they were registering for the choir, and we thought, oh, maybe it's going to be kind of small, but then it started, we got a few more, and so then by the time we got to October 2nd, which was our first rehearsal, we had 100 people.
Holy
Actually, there were over 100 people,
Incredible numbers.
which was kind of mind blowing in lots of ways,
is.
but also I guess it spoke to the need that people would really be interested to have this kind of opportunity to just feel free in their vocalizations, but also for the community members who do not belong to the Cameras Association. I think for them it's very much a kind of a feeling of service that they want to support a certain segment of our population who needs to be lauded and applauded and encouraged, right? And so that's our membership, and it's I wouldn't say we are not so strict with our attendance requirements, and so because we have to take into account illness and just how are people feeling, and so we every week we always have we have a few new people, and we've been going now for 8 weeks. So there's a few new people, and then there's some people who aren't there, and then some people that just appear. When we were at the performance last Saturday, there was a couple of people that we saw at the first rehearsal, and then they showed up at the performance. So it was wonderful, because they just felt comfortable to come, and so
that's right.
It's far larger than we anticipated, and so we had to really rethink a certain approach. I mean, I have to use a microphone now, and so that to some degree puts a bit of a barrier up, because you really want to be close and immediate with everyone.
Right.
But so we've had to change, but at the same time I think people are still feeling welcome despite the fact that we're so large. But the more the merrier. So we're very grateful for that.
Oh, it's wonderful, and it shows the need, and I mean, your passion for this comes through, and that probably draws people in as well. And it is such a welcoming, inclusive environment for whether you do have a challenge in your life or not. It's something to belong to. So you're providing that very necessary niche.
You feel welcome. You feel
that's right.
you feel in good hands with Ardelle, and you feel safe and free and comfortable to just sing, where you may not have that feeling in another choir or another situation.
Well, you're able as a group to create something beautiful, which is pretty special.
Yes.
Pretty special. So I think this next question, you've already answered it, but you don't have any criteria or checklist or anything for people to join?
No. Just come if they feel they're able and they want. In order to join, they just need to call the Cameras Association and just be put on the list. The choir is free.
Oh, nice.
We had quite a lot of success with the Music Educators Symposium that was hosted at Augustana, and so we have a fund that is kind of a legacy fund which is helping to support Sing Able. And so for this inaugural year, we wanted to make it absolutely accessible for everyone, no matter what socioeconomic background, and so it's a free program as well.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So they what we make sure that for some individuals who will need a particular support, that they make sure to bring their partner with them to help out in rehearsal. But everyone is welcome.
That's fantastic. And you've touched on this already, and I noticed it when I was able to watch the choir. So do you make modifications to help match with people's abilities?
Yes. And in terms of the repertoire that we choose, I always make sure that we have repertoire where there's a melody that is familiar. So it might be a folk song, it might be a song from, I don't know, camp, right now we're into Christmas carols, a popular song from whatever era, from all eras, just making sure that we have that melody that's always going through, that would be a familiar to them. And then what we can do with others, say some of the research assistants that are working with me, are the wonderful volunteers that are music students here, that then they can layer harmonies over top, and then Roger can also add some interesting accompaniment, and so that's the way that we can make modifications in terms of musical capacity. We have a number of individuals who are nonverbal, and so for them, they are free to do whatever kind of musical expression that they would like to show with their physically, and any kind of vocalization is more than welcome. And so I think that makes for a really comfortable situation for everyone, that they feel free. And
great.
And then I think that probably sums up the modification.
So Do you think any of your participants use your program as a type of therapy or see it as a therapeutic benefit?
I think so. I know that there's one man who had an injury as a child, and so his ability to speak is slightly impaired, because he had really severe vocal fold damage.
Oh, okay.
And so I think he's trying this out to see how things, he's never had, from what I understand, he's never had speech therapy.
Oh,
And
okay.
so he's singing, and I was saying to Roger last night that I wondered if it was my imagination, but I do think that I'm hearing a difference in the way that he
Really?
is speaking after these 8 weeks. I am not a trained music therapist, and
Oh,
so
okay.
in many ways this is all a I don't know if one wants to say an experiment, but it is sort of a way to explore what can happen with people
Right.
when music is happening. But I guess one could call it a form of music therapy, but it's not technically that. It's just more of a time to experiment, I suppose, and
Right.
see what kind of benefits would result. But I suppose in terms of therapy, there's also, I guess one could call it a bit of a social therapy where we
It is.
are exploring relationship as well.
Well, and for sure, and therapy can take so many forms. We did an interview with a recreational therapist, so this would fit in with the recreation therapy and start touching on the music therapy and perhaps open other doors for people started
Yeah.
by joining your choir
Yeah.
to explore that further. So you've told us that it's very inclusive, it's multi-generational, just so many wonderful things. It's a brand new program. What are your goals for running this program?
Well, I guess the ultimate mission and goal is to encourage people to sing because they are able. That would be probably our primary goal. And I guess then beyond that, then bringing all people together from all ages, stages, abilities, disabilities, just bringing them together and to cross any kind of boundaries that would be between generations,
Right.
and to cross that through the power of music. And also, in addition to just those who are involved with Sing Able that are registered choristers, we have a arrangement where a number of community groups, I've approached all of the community music groups and have given them an opportunity if they would like to come once or twice a year with their ensemble and sing with Sing Able, and help to support during rehearsal, but then also at that rehearsal where they choose that they would come,
Right.
and they can also perform one piece, and so it provides awareness for our Sing Able members that, oh, this group exists, and oh, maybe I would like to go in and hear them, or maybe I'd like to go in and sing with them sometime, or
Right.
but so our inclusion is not just between individuals with disability and the broader community, but it's also kind of bridging boundaries within our musical community as well. And also, if we think about the university and
Right.
the broader community as well, so bringing the academic side as well, and involving. So
Right.
it's this notion of creating a nice, warm, happy world of music.
Right. Well, in so many layers, and it's such a I've used this analogy before, but it's like the thread that you're combining together to build a beautiful tapestry. So
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
Yeah, tapestry is a good way to describe it for sure.
What do you see for the future of this choir?
Well, we have, for this term, we have 2 more rehearsals. So if we're going to think about the short term,
Right.
we're having a lovely carol sing on December 11th. That'll be candlelight and with harp. And
beautiful.
the choir is going to do a little winter we have a piece that we're kind of improvising movement with, and adding singing and percussion instruments, and so we'll have this little happening around this piece that we're creating together.
Right.
And then after Christmas, we get together. We start our rehearsal. Our first rehearsal in 2019 will be February 5th,
Okay.
and that ends on that term ends on April the 10th. And we will celebrate International Music Heals Day on March the 2nd. And so we'll have a community sing. We had a community sing in October for International World Singing Day. And
Right.
so this will be our second community sing that once again is open to everyone in the community to just come and sing together. So those are kind of our immediate goals.
Right.
In the second term, we will also do some composing, and we're going to compose a signature song that we'll do kind of as a group composition, which I'm really looking forward to. So we'll all contribute to writing the text, and then between Roger and my musical knowledge, we can kind of
Right.
craft it into a piece that might have a nice catchy chorus or a hook or
Right.
whatever you want to call it, and add some instruments to it, and that will kind of be our signature song. So that's just in our first year that we're kind of figuring
Right.
out who we are, and the choir to some degree has sort of taken a life of its own in many ways, and that all kinds of things just happen out of the blue. We get just the right kind of community volunteer who just happens to know lots about working with individuals with disability,
Right.
and so she's been a great support for me. And then the Battle River Community Foundation has given us a very generous some very generous funding.
Right.
And so we know that there is a future beyond how we're establishing ourselves. So I really want to see this group take off and expand in as many ways possible. Maybe we can have smaller groups. We have a number of young women who would be in their late teens, early 20s that are so keen to sing, and what I would like to do is put them together with our young women at Augustana and have a small close harmony vocal ensemble that they could work together. We have a visually impaired girl who is taking singing lessons, and so if we could we were able to do that now. And so if we can set up these kind of opportunities for individuals to explore their musicality in a really deep way. So that's a goal that I'd like to explore for next year. I'd also like to think about getting some research projects that would go along with the some healthcare professionals that are doing research through the University of Alberta. So anyway, I see a really bright future for the group. We think that we will continue to view ourselves as a group that does not perform. We want to be looked at as a group that facilitates singing. And that's for many reasons. And because we don't want to have that performance pressure, which can actually take the emphasis off of all the right things. You know what I mean? And anyway, it's kind of over the last 8 weeks, I wish that I'm teaching at the same time that we're doing this, and this is kind of in addition to all of my teaching here.
Oh my goodness!
And so I need to have some wide open mind space to comprehend all that has happened, because every rehearsal it's quite exciting. And as you saw from looking at the group on Saturday, we had a 2-year-old, and then we have someone who's probably 82, and everyone in between. Plus then we have those, with cerebral palsy, someone who's just with, he was just diagnosed with dementia. We have individuals with Down syndrome, and all kinds of things. And so everyone is so unique in that group, and so it's taken me a while to get my mind around it all, but I'm really excited about all the learning and grateful for the learning, and I know that there's a bright future ahead for us.
Oh, there is, for sure. From what I've seen and from what you've told me now, this is just the beginning, and there's so many ways this could branch off and fill the needs. And from the response and what you've seen, it is a huge need. Would you ever see this maybe becoming satellite choirs in other communities.
Yeah.
Do you hope to see that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And even if we had among our larger group, a group that was more mobile, or whoever would like to come, that we could
Right.
we could take out to different groups. And one of my just from family background, my mother always played in the seniors' homes in Castor, in the small town where I grew up, and so that has always been part of my repertoire of what you just do. Every Sunday you'd go and play for my grandfather in the hospital, and so Roger and I now, when we go to my hometown, we have still two elderly aunts, and so we always go. I've got my mandolin or guitar. Roger has the piano, and we just go and sing, and that's so important. But it's not so much that we sing for them.
No,
it's that we sing with, and that's what I really want to encourage. That it's not that when we go to do these things, that it's not encouraging passive listening. It's actually being actively engaged. And that was kind of what I was trying to communicate when we sang at the Festival of Trees on Saturday, just so to let the audience know that they're part of the choir already, just simply by being the audience. So that's kind of my heal the world mission and mandate. But I do see that we could do a lot of outreach.
Oh, and you do have that, and I love the distinction between everybody becomes part of the choir, and you certainly conveyed that message, and I was singing along as I could that day as
Very
well.
good.
So we appreciated that. Both of you are such talented musicians, and you both have such experience behind you, and you're using this to help others. It's so inspirational, and it's really filling a need. As to our quotes, and as you said earlier, music does transcend the languages. And do you mind if I share the one quote you told me earlier that's on your board?
Go ahead.
And it's so true what your choir is achieving. Music is what feelings sound like. I just love that. So thank you so much for all the information and for your work in the community. But lastly, any words of someone thinking of singing or using music in any form as therapy or for recreation and enjoyment? Just any last words, Ardelle?
Well, I would say if anyone was thinking about embracing music, embracing singing, I think that they need to believe. I think that's the most important thing, and never live in fear of music making, but live in the joy of the opportunity to make music. And I may be going on at length here, but
okay.
I do have one student who is very fearful. She's a music student. She wants to be a music teacher, and she is so critical of her own abilities. And I think we've all been there as musicians. We all are very hard on ourselves, and because there's that notion of perfection. And I think back to when I was younger, and the kind of, I wouldn't say hell, but the kind of pain that we put ourselves by putting that pressure on it. And I wish I would have had someone when I was younger to say to me, think about the opportunity and the beauty that you are able to take part in, and try to embrace the learning and not look at where you think you aren't, but where you are and where you can go, because you have the opportunity to grow, and try to look at it in that way rather than, oh, I'm not there yet. Because we're all in this continuum of learning. No matter where we are, no matter how accomplished we may seem to be, we still have so much to learn. And so I just want people to believe that they can do it. They can do it. Yeah.
Wonderful words, and so true. Just believe, and that can be with anything. As you know, it's about stroke recovery, and it fits in with that as well, with everything. Thank you, Ardelle. Roger, any last words?
Well, also I echo what Ardelle has been saying, and there's a beauty to music making. There's a beauty to singing, and at the same time, it's also it's a healthy physical thing, singing with others or singing by yourself. But obviously, we're talking about sing able, and it's singing with others. There's a pleasure from the vibration of the harmony of the voices together, mixed with your own breathing, mixed with the beauty of the music. That it's a therapy for anybody.
Right. Right, and it creates feelings of joy. So thank you for taking the time to help us all explore the benefits of music, I mean, especially singing. And as you just heard and you've told us about, singing can be for anyone. Let's all give it a try. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you for this opportunity.
Did you know that you can follow us on Twitter at 7Jars? We post daily with all the latest stroke research, innovation, and inspiration. Follow us. Now it's time for the joke of the week.
Singing in the shower is so much fun. Until you get soap in your mouth.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, then it becomes a soap opera.
Oh, my gosh. Now it's time for our segment on survivor stories. We'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to share your own stroke or survival story, or your experience as a caregiver, you can submit your story through our website at 7 Jars of Hot Pickled Peppers, or personal message us on Facebook. We look forward to reading your story.
Here's Tom's journey through stroke and recovery, read by Ken.
My name's Tom, and here's my story. In 2009, I woke up with the worst headache in my life. My wife called an ambulance and they took me to the hospital. They found out that I had a ruptured aneurysm. I had to have emergency surgery. I thought, this is it, I'm a goner. The doctors didn't think I would survive either, and if I did, I would have lots of brain damage. I was told I was in a coma, but my mind made another world for me, inside my head. When I started coming out of my coma, I was talking about this other world, like really confused. My doctors were concerned. It was my wife who was able to get me back. When I heard her voice, I decided to fight, to come back. It's been a hard road with rehab and everything. I've had to relearn everything all over again. I couldn't walk, talk properly. They didn't think I would ever walk again, but I did. I'm walking. God was with me, and I'm getting better all the time. It's still hard, but I'm going to keep living. God bless.
Thank you, Tom, for sharing your story and for inspiring us with your courage and determination.
Now for our stroke link.
I was looking up music therapy and found a great Canadian website dedicated to music therapy.
Oh, really? Why don't you tell me about it?
Sure. It's a non-profit association dedicated to fostering music therapy in a multitude of settings for a large range of medical conditions, including acquired brain injuries.
Huh, that sounds fascinating. And as you know, acquired brain injuries include stroke.
You bet. This site even gives the history of music therapy in Canada, starting as early as 1950.
Wow. I know music is so important, but I didn't think it started as a recognized therapy that early.
I know. There are lots of links you can click into from this website, including a map to find a music therapist close to you.
That's amazing. I'm going to check it out. Maybe they'll need a band or something. Maybe our band.
That would be great. We recommend this site to learn more about music therapy. Check out www.musictherapy.ca. last but not least, remember FAST. F-A-S-T. Face, arm, speech, time. If you or a loved one experience any changes in your face, arm, or speech, time to get yourself to the hospital quickly. You can call 911 in Canada for emergencies, or for inquiries, you can call HealthLink in Canada at 1-866-408-5465 and talk to a healthcare professional.
Thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, or if you have any questions, comments, jokes, or ideas for future topics, contact us at our website, 7jarsofhotpickledpeppers.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to hear more about Christine's journey, please check out the website. Her book is available for purchase.
That's all for today. Thanks for listening. And look for the rainbow in your thunderstorm. Goodbye and good health.